men have immense power in their homes. When they do things, their families are affected for generations. They have a massive power in their homes. So they should be intent on wielding that power to produce righteousness and holiness. So let's look at Hebrews to tell us about fatherhood and discipline. The author starts out the book of Hebrews heralding the supremacy of Christ. The point of the whole book of Hebrews is Jesus is better. He's better than the angels. He's better than Moses. There's a better resting place in him. He's better than the priest king Melchizedek. He's better than the old covenant. Jesus is better than the Levitical system of the Israelites. Christ's supremacy reigns over all things. Here's what I mean. Chapter 1 begins, long ago, and at many times, and in many ways, God spoke to our fathers by the prophets. But in these last days, he has spoken to us by his Son, whom he appointed as the heir of all things, through whom also he created the world. He is the radiance of the glory of God and the exact imprint of his nature. And he upholds the universe by the word of his power. After making purification for sins, he sat down at the right hand of the majesty on high. That speaks to Christ's superiority pretty clearly. So, if Christ is better, then we need to believe that and have faith. So, the writer brings us all the way through this to chapter 11, where he shows us all these examples of faith, the so-called Faith Hall of Fame. He points at Abraham with the sacrifice of Isaac, or almost sacrifice of Isaac. Rahab with her shielding of the spies from Jerusalem inside of Jericho. Samson, Joseph. He points to all these people and says, they had faith, so you should have faith. And that's where he brings us in chapter 12. We are surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses. He's referring to them. But he's also referring to ourselves, the saints. So he points at Christ and says, not only is he supreme and superior in chapter 12, he says, he was the perfect example of humility in his submission to the Father's will. Christ on the cross submitted to the hostility of sinners that was sent by his Father. This is why we look to Jesus as our example of sonship, because Jesus, being the perfect Son, the Son of God, received discipline that we should have received, and he submitted. And as he is, so are we. This shows us the importance of humble, submissive sonship and daughterhood. Christ endured our penalty, so we too should endure the sanctifying discipline that comes from the Father. And the writer of the book of Hebrews brings us right there. Let's read some. In verse 1 he says, let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith, who, for the joy that was set before him, endured the cross, despising the shame, and is seated at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him, Jesus, who endured from sinners such hostility against himself, so that you may not grow weary or faint-hearted. You see, the readers of this letter were experiencing persecution. The writer calls this persecution discipline from the Lord. And then he equates Christ's sufferings with discipline from the Lord. So, if Christ himself submitted to that discipline, so we should submit to the discipline from the Lord. And this gets to the true heart of why the job of a father is so important. When a father disciplines his children, he is teaching them to submit to the discipline of the Lord. A father, when he consistently and wisely disciplines and admonishes his children, teaches them what posture to have before the Lord when he disciplines them. Earthly fathers image to their children who their heavenly Father is. The child's view of their daddy will have a profound effect on their view of God. That is a massive, weighty responsibility. You see, this is why the writer of Hebrews talks about the discipline of God and then compares it to earthly fathers' discipline of us, our children. It is a picture of the heavenly Father. And more than that, the Lord disciplines us with more wisdom than our earthly fathers. Verse 9 and 10 say, moreover, We have all had human fathers who disciplined us, and we respected them for it. How much more should we submit to the Father of spirits and live?